This is Water Elemental.
And this is Axis, and we are here today to talk about the League of Legends. This is an ongoing show where we talk a little bit about everyone's favorite MOBA-style battle game.
News!
We have some interesting things to talk about. We have a brand new patch that dropped. We have some interesting stuff from the very real April 1st day. And we also have upcoming information about a Twitch visual update.
Bum, bum, bum.
So we're going to jump right into the big news, folks. We have a big old patch 4.5. And this is actually kind of a big patch, but we're going to go over it as best as we can. First of all, they put in those Rengar and those Gragas changes and those Misfortune changes we talked about in the last 2 weeks. If you're not familiar, Rengar, they kind of messed with him a little bit. They made him a little bit more tanky, and they made the ferocity scaling effect build into his trinket rather than taking up an inventory slot, and they reduced its power in terms of flat item statistics while maintaining its amplification effect to your character. So overall, they made the character better as a baseline, and then they went and tinkered with his abilities some. So Savagery, it got worked around a little bit. The cooldown is a little bit shorter at later levels and earlier levels as well. The base damage got hurt, but the scaling damage got increased.
So it's going to be up more, dealing more damage.
But they removed the attack speed bonus from it, which is a pretty huge deal. And they also made the auto attack buff window a little bit wider, so if they get away, you have a little bit more time to make it happen. And now the empowered Savagery gives it the attack speed. So they want to make the empowered Savagery not only have the increased damage, but also have the increased attack speed. So that empowered Savagery means a lot more than it did before. Battle Roar they tinkered with. They made the cooldown longer at max rank, but shorter at every other rank. The damage is unchanged. The armor bonus got nerfed pretty hard, and the duration got jumped up a little bit. The base armor and magic resistance on it gets increased for every champion and large monster that is hit around him. So
there's no cap to that either.
Yeah. So look, there's a maximum of 8 large monsters. Well, 12 large monsters on the map and 5 enemy champions. It could be a lot. You're never going to get them all together in the same place.
There's that one time where it happens, and then you're just like, no one can kill me.
I'm invulnerable.
Just triggers like special like voice acting. It's like, nothing can stop me now.
And of course, they made the maximum and minimum heal a little bit stronger in terms of a flat amount, and a little bit weaker in its scaling. So it's more predictable. The Bullet Strike is now a skill shot. It has a shorter CD in the low ranks and a longer in the high ranks. And the damage got buffed ever so slightly. But the range got almost doubled. And the slow on it got buffed a little bit at early ranks.
To make up for the fact that now it's a skill shot.
Yeah, so you can really, if you're careful, it's going to make Rengar a lot more fun to play. It's going to make his engagements a lot easier.
And a harassment tool.
Mm-hmm. And his empowered makes the root duration almost 2 seconds and the damage a lot higher. So this is going to make it so Rengar can initiate from more than just a bush or more than just from his ulti, which I think is good. And finally, Thrill of the Hunt cooldown got knocked down a little bit. He gains movement speed only when moving towards enemy champions, so he's not incentivized to flee with this ability anymore. The movement bonus got nerfed a little bit. But after he breaks his stealth, he gains increased movement speed for 5 seconds. And he gains 1 ferocity per second for 5 seconds after that. But the targets are alerted when Rengar is within 1,000 range of them while he is stealth. So overall, they want to make it so less so his stealth is just like a normal stealth. It's more like what it's intended to be, where he's actually hunting someone down rather than just like, I'm in danger, invis, walk away. So I think it's a good change overall. And I don't know, the changes to Bone Tooth Necklace, making it into a trinket, it's going to increase his power at all stages in the game as long as you invest in it. And really cool.
It's good to see that they're kind of taking on the problem with these character-only items, So we might see something for Victor.
Poor
Victor. Gragas, he got his changes. They did some slight tweaks, not as much as Rengar, more or less kind of nerf Gragas and his power. Overall, he has a lower magic resistance, or he has lower speed, but he has a 1.5 magic resistance per level. Happy Hour is a 4% max health instantly every time you cast.
But it does have an internal cooldown now.
Of 8 seconds. Barrel Roll, they reduced the mana cost on it, decreased the range, and the base damage has been decreased as well. And the ability power ratio went down from 0.9 to 0.6.
The main cool thing, though, that they did is the longer you let the barrel sit there, the more damage it does. Up to 50% more damage, which is pretty huge.
So you can always kind of bait players into zoning them out of certain areas. So you can throw it behind them right from escaping to their tower, and then you can body slam them into it. So there's a lot of cool plays you can do with it. Speaking of body slam, they increased the cooldown to 16, 15, 14, 13, and 12 instead of the flat 12. The mana cost has been reduced. The damage on it is actually buffed, so it's going to be more of a damage-dealing tool. And they increased the ratio by 1 or 0.1, so it's at 0.6 now.
Yeah, but they removed the attack damage scale on it, which is kind of a huge deal. But the cooldown gets reduced if you collide with someone, and now it has a stun and a knockback to it. And his Drunken Rage, his ability where he drinks, now gives him a little bit of a small root on himself, essentially. But it has a much shorter cooldown, and now it adds a percentage magic damage ability with a flat ratio as well. And it's a 3-second window to hit, and it also gives him damage reduction. So, yeah, it's pretty darn good. And he can move a little bit while drinking. It's crazy. And finally, his ulti, they didn't tinker with it too much. They reduced the ratio on it, on the damage a little bit. But I mean, that's really about it. They made him more of a brawler with a lot of denial tools and a little bit better of engagement ability, which I think is great, and I'm really looking forward to trying it out. Fiddlesticks, minor buff! Dread, you can no longer see when you don't have vision of Fiddlesticks. You don't have to worry about ruining your ganks because they see your passive. Graves got some minor nerfs, just changed his damage on his ulti. Heimerdinger got some huge nerfs, they're making it so you can't pool the beam charge for an instant line nuke. But they also nerfed certain abilities, but they made his towers a little bit better on their startup, but they have a longer cooldown on their beam ability. So they want to encourage you to set up that nest and kind of be ready and built up, rather than just sort of drop everything and blow them to pieces.
Yeah. So they're trying to go back to what old Heimerdinger was.
Yeah,
sort of.
Kind of. They just want you to invest in your fortress a little bit more, which, I don't know. The game is too fast-paced for that to work, I think. Lee Sin, huge nerfs. Safeguard got its cooldown increased by 6 seconds, but the cooldown is halved if you use it on Lee Sin himself or an allied champion. So ward hopping is being really strongly discouraged. And, yeah, I think that's a good thing.
Honestly, it is, because he became super, super fast when they came out with those trinket wards.
You get trinket wards, and it's just goofy.
Small nerf to Leona. Her magic resistance and armor has been decreased from her Eclipse, and her base health regen per second went down by 2. So a little bit tankiness removed from her.
Lulu got a pretty big nerf. The Pelt Pix doesn't follow enemies as long. Minions no longer gain a shield, and the base damage of the ability went down at early ranks. Very bad stuff for poor Lulu. Misfortune got those buffs that we were talking about a little bit, making double up more of a harassment tool with a shorter cooldown and slightly better damage. Impure Shots getting a reduced mana cost at early ranks, getting slightly better ability power, slightly better ratios for attack damage, and the attack speed buff has gone up pretty significantly. So overall, they're trying to abandon the whole hybrid thing. They've just seen that it doesn't work, and they're just making it better.
Making her more of the, hey, if you're going to harass, you might as well build your AD and kind of start building up early instead of, well, I want to get a little bit of magic power early game for harassment with the double up, so.
And now bullet time, the damage scales with impure shots. So you can sort of line up combos with that rather than just using it as a clearing tool. Couple of changes to some bruisers. We've got Renekton and Wukong both getting hit a little bit, making their survivability a little less than it normally is. Renekton with his Dominus and Wukong with his Armor Shield. Slight changes to Twisted Fate in his card selection. Kind of a shorter cooldown on some of them, but the abilities aren't quite as good. And finally, Zig's attack range has been reduced to make his passive, his little bomb thing, a little less potent. A couple of minor bug fixes, guys. Nothing really to get too excited about. Some changes to some of the trinkets. These are things you probably want to read about. I mean, it's just small things here. Check out the official patch notes at LeagueOfLegends.com. But new items.
Aether Wisp, this is the one I've been looking forward to. Builds out of an Amplifying Tome and 515 gold. Gives you the ability, power, and movement speed. Builds into Twin Shadow and Lichbane. It's going to be probably the most potent of these two new items.
Oh, yeah. Now, the early movement speed on a caster item is something I've been wanting for a long time.
With Wiglet's cap from Twisted Dreamland was the first time we saw that, and we wanted that in the main game.
Awesome. The only other time it was there was Lichbane.
Yep.
And they took that out, and then they put it back in, and now we're here. But the main important thing about this is that everybody else is so mobile, and unless you're a caster with a blink or a dash, I mean, you're running flash. You have to get out. You have to burn a CC to get out of a conflict. And so having this move speed is really going to be helpful, and especially you combine it with the enhancement changes of this patch. There's going to be some speed casters coming along.
Yeah. Slow casters like Bran, Xerath, Karthus, all that stuff.
Veigar.
I play a lot of the slow ones, so it's going to be nice to see him kind of speeding up and...
Indeed.
Forbidden Idol. This one is built by a Fairy Charm, and 390 gold.
Very cheap item.
Yep. Gives you 10% cooldown reduction and 8 mana per second, 5 seconds.
This is pretty good. A lot of early mana regen here, especially if you don't want to be going for a tier or a cup, a chalice.
Or a catalyst.
Or, well, a tier.
Yeah, got a good point.
But, I mean, these are important items mainly because they give options. You know, literally you have to go chalice, Philly Stone, or tier if you want to get mana regen. So having another option is a good choice in my book.
And it builds into some decent support items as well as
Morellonomicon.
So if it's versatile between two different builds. So
a couple other minor changes to some well-known items: Frozen Fist, Will of the Ancients, Glacial Shroud. Suggest reading up on these guys. They're minor changes, but they're definitely worth looking at.
The boot enhancements are added. We talked about this last week, guys. Read up on that, see what they change, as well as the seals we talked about have been added. So keep that in mind. Check out your build, see what has changed, and adjust.
A lot of minor changes, things like heals getting changed, barrier, they changed the color on it. Aesthetic changes mostly, and then some changes to maps like Summoner's Rift, especially with the dragons, and some of the visual updates that they're planning on doing. We have those cool new skins that finally dropped. We have the new Malphite
Splash art.
We have the Zig skin.
And the Rumble skin.
The Rumble skin.
The Rumble skin,
They're not Zigs.
Fizz.
Two. All right, they're practically the same.
So yeah, the new Rumble skin, I did get to see it in one of the other things we were talking about, but I saw Rumble. Very fun. I like the effects. Very cool. I think it's worth the money if you play Rumble, but I'm not playing Rumble very often, so I can't invest in it myself, but it's great. I like it.
Right on.
There are 4 new skins that just hit the PBE. These are for the SKT T1 skins for last season's winners. There are 4 on the PBE right now. We have the Zyra, the Jax, the Lee Sin, and the Vayne. We do not have the Zed one yet, because they teased this in a promotional video last week after we put up the show, but these are the 4 that are being tested, and I have to say,
they're definitely unique.
I don't know, they look good. I like the way Jack has the chalice on top of his stick, and Zyra getting a new skin is definitely needed. Lee Sin and Vayne, well, I understand because those were the winning team comp, just them getting skins always kind of hurts. It hurts me.
Who would you prefer, Trundle?
Trundle, I'd like to see... I can't say Rumble anymore because he got a legendary.
Exactly.
Tarek,
here, there's the one always for you.
Gragas hasn't gotten one.
He'll get one when he gets... Well, he did get punched out. Because we're not seeing anything from Gragas for a while.
Yeah, but check those out. They're on the PBE, or you can go to surrender20.net. They have everything lined out, ready to go for you. And, yeah, they have everything kind of shown off. It's pretty cool.
Indubitably.
So, it was April 1st this week, and we got probably one of my favorite April Fool's Day things of this year. We had the Ultra Rapid Fire mode added. This is supposed to be what Season 4 is going to feel like. They wanted to increase the number of plays by reducing the number of downtime. So, kind of in Summoner's Rift, a special game mode, as well as Howling Fjord, you get increased movement speed, 80% CDR, resistant to dinosaurs, you get no mana or energy, as well as, pretty much 2 characters have been removed from the game. Kassadin and Rise are not allowed to be played, but the game mode itself is a lot of fun. I found...
Blitzcrank is my favorite.
No, Urget for me. Rapid fire Urget. No, you just keep firing to the point where, like, as soon as you get Acid Hunter on them, or when you get the AoE on them, you could just follow them and you just see, like, a row of rockets. Trundle's really good with his... Pillars, because it goes to a 2-second cooldown, so I was just, like, throwing pillars up. He was awful, but it was just kind of funny to be like, you don't get to go anywhere.
It's terrible.
It's so much fun. I love the fact that they put the effort to actually make it a real thing. And we were talking about how that there wasn't anything for these new game modes, so this is the first one where they really kind of let it go. And so I hope that this kind of continues a trend of just stretching to see what you can do with the engine. And plus, if you play it, you also get an URF icon.
Yay.
So if you guys haven't done it already, play it, check it out. It's a blast. And there's not much else we can really say about it. It was a good prank, and it's a good game mode.
I'm enjoying it so far.
Yep, it's going to be around until the end of the week.
British
crank. Pull you, pull you, pull you.
Well, the thing is, I pull them in, and then just... Goosh! Goosh! Goosh!
No, Blitzcrank, no.
His cooldowns are already so short. And then, like, his ulti is, like, a 30-second cooldown, and it gets knocked down to, like, 10. You're just like... Bursh! Bursh!
Who else did I play that was really funny? I think it was Brand, where pretty much every second I was throwing, like, AoE circles on the ground. I'm just like...
because you can keep them burning, and you can keep them stunned out. Because you go...
Veigar is really scary. They actually had to nerf Veigar in a hotfix. And Soraka is just... You can't get near Soraka. You can't. And when you do, she just heals. Let us know who you think is the most overpowered character in this game mode, because I think this is the new meta.
But last thing on our plate, guys, the Twitch visual update.
Yes, Twitch got a surprise update, and he looks really cool.
Yeah, Twitch has always been a character that was really just...
ugly
and not fun to look at. Like, it would be one thing if he was just an ugly character, but he's just not interesting.
Now he's ugly and interesting.
Yeah, he looks kind of like the rats from the Great Mouse Detective.
Yeah, they do. He does kind of look like one of Ratigan's minions. He also looks... what does he look like? He does look like he's from the Super Sazan, doesn't he?
Mm-hmm. Like, I can totally see that. Just like a failed experiment kind of fused with this poor creature, and now he's just throwing around. It's definitely very fun. I'm looking forward to it. They're also tinkering with his lore, and all of his skins are getting updated, and honestly, it's going to be a real treat to play with.
Yep, they're updating his voice acting with the same voice actors, so we're going to get all new touched-up voice acting. If you liked his voice acting, they're going to
I'm curious to see if they do interactions with him, because there hasn't really been much lore with Twitch.
He's
like
just been there.
Yeah, like at all. So I'm wondering if, maybe he'll like talk to Singed and be like, "You did this.
I was an innocent little rat until you did it.
It was my wedding day."
Was he really getting married?
I don't know. Probably not.
Rat wedding.
Rat wedding.
It's a nice day for rat wedding. We're hyped up on sugar. We're hyped up on just all the news. You can just tell.
Indeed. But we're going to move on to our own section here, guys. Our first question this week comes from Mr.12. He says, do you guys believe it would be possible to make a trading card game based on the League of Legends?
You can do it.
Oh, you can do a trading card with anything.
They did.
They did it with, like, hearts and diamonds, and that game is so popular.
Yeah, you would have to base the cards off of both the skins and the champions themselves, have summoner spells and items as, equipment that you'd play using a resource. But it could work. If they made World of Warcraft and they've made superheroes into card games, you can definitely take League of Legends and make it into a tangible form. And I would play it just for probably all the art.
Indeed. Yeah, there's definitely lots of possibilities there. And like we said, you have to use skins to make there be enough characters.
Since they're alternate universes.
Indeed. And, yeah, totally. I mean, they've made cards out of everything and anything. And so they can definitely do it there. Next question comes from Ian Mansfield. It says, what would you think if support scaled off of a new stat? It says they'd be encouraged to always buy more damage, ability power. They could buy utility power that would enhance the strengths of their buffs, CCs, heals, shields, and so on. That way supports could be balanced around the utility instead of the damage they do.
See, the thing about that is, if you put a new stat into the game, you're going to have to rebalance the whole itemization of the game. It's already kind of on a thin line that they've been kind of tinkering with. And a lot of supports work well building off their items like AP, AD, scaling, stuff like that, because there's different supports that can do different things. Giving them one homogenized build will kind of make them play exactly the same. You would build Leona having the same utility builds as, say, a caster or an Annie or something like that. So it would remove a lot of the itemization you do depending on what type. So the tankier ones would be exactly the same as the caster ones, or the utility ones would be the same as the kind of gimmicky ones. So it's adding that new stat would take away more than it would add.
This adding a new stat that scales off things is kind of a big deal. When League of Legends first started, almost all abilities scaled off of ability power, and auto attack scaled off of attack damage. There were very few characters that had an ability that scaled off their attack damage. It was only Gangplank for a long time.
Gangplank and Kale.
Gangplank and Kale, yes. And this was okay. I mean, ability power, literally what it was. If you had an ability, it was enhanced by ability power. And they started shifting this around, and it's still one of the decisions I'm not pleased about to this day, is having attack damage kind of double dip for ability damage and for auto attacks. I just don't think that's a good design choice. But utility power, I don't think is a good idea. And I know you're saying, this would allow you to change your abilities and your CCs.
That would give characters with a lot of high CCs more power.
Well, the main thing is that supports already have items that are kind of designed for them. And a lot of these are activation items. So their utility power, their extra CC, or the extra buff, or an extra heal, these are already built into items that are available in the game. You can pop the Chalice upgrade to heal someone and make them immune to CC. You can pop your shield to give them a shield. You can
Haunting Visage to find two enemies around the map.
You can use your Shard of Ice to give a character extra CC. These all exist. So I don't think utility power is needed when they have items that do essentially what you're asking for in the game already. Now, I know you want to enhance the innate abilities of the characters, and really adding more variables to the game and more stuff to keep track of. I just don't think that's a great idea. It puts a lot of second guessing into the game. When you're worried about a CC, you can sort of be like, I have Mercury Treads and I have a little extra tenacity, so I can get out of it at this time, and I can coordinate this. If they've got an extra 0.75 on their stun because they have a utility item, that's more math that you got to do in your head, and that's less reliable you can be. So it's going to make it a headache to play against that. And that might be a good thing. Supports could use some teeth, but I don't think that's the way to do it. I think they should maybe stick to activation items having a certain amount of power and being able to exploit that power by using those activation items, and that's what support is already doing. So I think utility power is in a game in a different way, but enhancing the natural abilities other than increasing the shield amount or the damage amount with ability power, I don't think that's the right way to go about it. But that's it for questions this week, guys. We love to answer questions. We try to answer at least 2 every week. If you have any questions for us about the show, about League of Legends, about gaming in general, about anything really, video games, life, whatever, just please post it in the comment section below. Send it to our email at spazticgaming@gmail.com or submit it on our Facebook page, which is linked down below. We also have a Twitter. You can send us a question there, and we'll see if we can take a look at Rooney.
We're looking for some suggestions. We're trying to start making a kind of, the channel preview video. We want to know what you guys think about when you
hear about us.
Yeah, do you like certain jokes? Are there certain gags you guys like? Are there certain videos that you guys prefer or others? We can kind of tell which ones those are. Us, the show, all that stuff. We want to know what you guys can define us as, so we can kind of build around a kind of goofy video, so we can bring in more people and all that stuff.
Indeed.
But
yeah, I believe that's it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Manaxis.
And Water Elemental.
April Fool.